program that will be airing on Thursdays, starting this Thursday today at 18 hours. Every Thursday at 18 hours, join Ambassador Frank Mtubila with Simply Frank. And that is their 5FM edition. And of course, that will be aired here every Thursday at 18 hours. And today's guest on Simply Frank is the Honorable Minister of Mines and Mineral Development in Honorable Kabuswe. All right. And so look out for that edition. We will make announcements on this particular platform, the burning issue, often, just so that you can make a date with Frank Mtubila on Simply Frank. Well, let me welcome you all then to this wonderful program today, the Thursday edition of the burning issue. And I'm your host, Zakaria Banda. Now, today we have an interesting guest, and our guest today is an economist, and this is Mr. Kelvin Chisanga. I will be introducing him formally pretty soon, but let me first of all let you know that we are not only live here in Lusaka on 899, but also live on other partner radio stations and TV stations. So we will be live on BMTV, or we are live on BMTV, and BMTV is on channel 114 on Topstar. And also they are on the Facebook page. Look out for BMTV Zambia. Like the page, share it, and leave us a comment, most importantly. And also we are live on Katete FM in Katete, covering Eastern Province on 103.3. Spice FM in Kawe Central Province, 91.1. And ZFM in Kapiri, Central Province on 100.3 FM. Live on Platinum Radio in Indola on 99.7, covering Copper Belt as well. So are we on iWave FM 90.1 in Chingola, Copperbelt. Also live on Tuta FM in Mansa, Wapula Province on 90.7. And not forgetting, we are also live on Isunga Radio, that is in Senga Hill, Northern Province on 88.3. All right. And of course, Muchinga Radio is catching us live as well. Or rather carrying this program live, and that is on 88.1 FM. All right, so let me at this point officially welcome my guest, Mr. Kelvin Chisanga. Welcome to the burning issue, and good to have you.
Thank you so much. My pleasure being here. Ndeto sana kwa kumuru kwa tupere wale mkwai. Mkwai.
Right. So, let's get into it, because then I need to just emphasize on one thing to our listeners, that while you are up and about doing your business, one issue continues to dominate conversations across the country is the rising cost of living. Now, fuel prices are climbing, global oil markets remain unstable, and here at home, the government has just stepped in, removing import duty and zero rating taxes on fuel imports. And all this is in an effort to cushion the impact. At the same time, Zambia is pushing forward with an ambitious vision of a 24-hour economy. But the big question remains, are these policies aligned with the realities on the ground? Are we building a resilient economy, or merely managing pressure as it comes? Those are some of the topics that we will definitely be looking at in this particular episode of the burning issue. Let's get into it, Mr. Chisanga. Mr. Chisanga, from a macroeconomic perspective, how would you describe Zambia's current economic position? Stable, vulnerable, or indeed improving?
Well, Zambia has been stabilizing, obviously looking at the key fundamentals that are actually ticking positively, especially when you look at the key macroeconomic variables. The beginning point is to look at the forex market performance that we have actually been able to see. Early this year, we actually saw 15% appreciation effect that we actually recorded in Kwacha, and also we've seen the inflation going downward from highs of about 9.4% to 7.1% in this particular month, which we just ended yesterday. So this clearly indicates to say that with the much more bigger aspect that we should be able to also to count there, we are basically recording something substantially very good and a beautiful outlook, which we should be able to also account from there. Maybe the challenge, of course, remains on the micro perspective in terms of community effect and just ground level impact. But overall, the framework has been seen holding very, very nicely, and they are very quite attractive as well. So all in all, what I should be able to say is that the key macroeconomic indicators are standing in positive figures.
So simply improving.
Improving, yes.
Okay. And also maybe, are we in a more of the recovery phase, or we are still managing economic shocks?
We have done a bit of recovery now. We are into stabilization platform or phase where we are now looking forward to consolidate the gains that we have so far made, even from recovery as we transit into this process. So what we see basically working out right this moment is that we've got a very strong stabilization phase, which does just need now to steadily keep holding so that we can actually be able to see the productive results from there, especially when it comes to key priority sectors that are supposed to be able to uplift some of the things that are lagging behind. Yes.
In my preamble, I did make mention that, government has removed import duty and zero-rated fuel taxes on fuels. But doesn't this, to you, create a revenue gap in an already constrained budget?
It's a two-way thing here. There is a matter of trade-off, especially when it comes to the risk factor that may be posing to hamper growth. Our GDP growth projection in this year is estimated around 6.4. And again, we've seen that there is an uncontrollable effect that is coming from the external market, the global market, issues to do with the geopolitical tension that's taking place in the Gulf nations. So this demands a quicker measure for us to actually be able to mitigate the emerging potential risk, which can actually be able to hamper and maybe even make more dents on our growth projection. So that's the more reason why that's element. So with that justification, it's standing in place. But again, on the flip side, yes, we are dipping into our revenue tax aspect. We will be able to lose about 1.5 billion Zambian kwacha, obviously from the tax relief that are actually being able to reinforced in this situation. Yes.
But are these interventions, how can I call it? Are they political interventions you want to see, or what really would you say? Because there's debate around it, and the question is this strategic interventions or short-term political cushion?
Well, maybe just allow me to state one thing here. In an election year, any good elements or any political inclined decision can also be having that mixture reaction, and it is the same case with what is happening. I think it's more to do with the better evil than having a consequential effect. What we see basically sitting here is that we could have actually jumped the pricing benchmark for most of the petrochemical products. So the lesser evil here is to look at losing revenue and also seeing to be more political in this. And that is the more reason why we seem to have this intervention coming so strong. So the model of this policy treatment is basically just to serve the effect that we could actually be able to see in fuel pump prices. Otherwise, that will vibrate a very bad effect on the economic factors. And it's more ideal, actually, even from the macroeconomic perspective, to just intervene from that perspective. Maybe on the stakeholders side, yes, they may look into other things, but again, Zambia is at a place where we need to have a strong balance in regards to the current situation that is developing in the global market.
All right, and your thoughts on the fact that you do know that in a situation where we are, it's all about sustainability. I mean, this intervention is for about 3 months, right? And at what point does this approach become fiscally unsustainable? Is 3 months still the safe period or safe amount of time in order, I mean, for government to manage to lose their figures that you're talking about?
Okay, so the gist of the matter here is that it all depends with the intensity and the deep cut that is coming from the global market, especially in regards to this key commodity. The more it's prolonged with the geopolitical risk, tensions that we are seeing in the global market, the more we seem to also try to be more flexible regarding the policy treatment of this nature. But the challenge that comes also there is that it also depends with how we can stimulate the aspect of intervention, because maybe the tricky part I can mention here is that we're supposed to contain fiscal discipline. And that is the striking balance in between. So it's important that we just need to look at how best can this work out. We are all hoping that the Middle East tension can come to an end anytime soon. If that's the case, then it means we'll be able to liberate the public resource on our budget implementation process, because the more we take intervention of this nature, depending on the global development patterns, the more we are also trying to be in discipline on the fiscal side, because we did not plan for this. And again, in an election year, it becomes a mixture reaction to all stakeholders. So it becomes also a very big, difficult situation. Mind you, this will be happening at a point. In fact, the tenure of this relief is happening at a time when there is parliamentary dissolution, which even complicates the whole scenario, because we cannot do any budget supplementary or any adjustment to expenditure columns. So it also becomes very important for us to see that we all play for a better world, so that we would not go into overburden expenses.
Thanks for obviously that response. But then, should Zambia be considering a fuel stabilization fund instead of reactive measures like the case is now?
Well, we do have the fuel levy, which has been helping to strategically cushion the effect, but I think it has been moving at a slow pace. We could have maybe done this much earlier, the moment we started working on the monthly fuel, reviews. I think this would have actually been able to push a lot of scales as we speak, and much more. We could have simultaneously also work on strategic reserves capacity, because holding fuel for just maximum of about 20 days, it's not enough for this economy. And much to this also, I think we should be able to see that we need to upscale efforts to 90 days of storage capacity. Just like the way we are building reserves on a dollar form, or different forms of currency, we should also look at it parallel with fuel. We need to build strategic reserves that should be able to serve effect even when it comes to market shocks. We should be able to address the surrender some of the potential risk from that basis.
Yeah, I've seen questions that obviously other people may judge them as illogical, but there are questions popping up now: is how much of Zambia's fuel crisis is truly global, and how much is domestic policy failure? Is the Kwacha equally helping or worsening the situation?
Okay, so with regard to Kwacha, maybe as a matter of peculiar interest, I think the past 3 months we've seen how Kwacha has really sustained the importation of goods like even fuel, where we were limiting imported the inflation and much more. If you look at maybe the patterns of fuel moderation for March, we had a reduction of about 5% in fuel pump prices, which made a very strong appeal even to the consumers out there. But alas, to say that just barely 2-3 days after reduction of fuel pump prices, then we had this oil erupted, which basically now has given a different shape altogether. Kwacha depreciation means expensive fuel that we're going to import, which we have actually been able to see working out for the month of April, where Kwacha was a key parameter. The issue of fuel is always based on two factors. That's the Kwacha-dollar relationship as well as the global market pricing index. So if these two showing that stress factor levels, then it becomes difficult for us to cushion the fuel cost.
Well, our guest today on the Thursday edition of The Burning Issue is Mr. Kelvin Chisanga, who is an economist. And later on, very soon in the course of the program, I will invite you, our listener, to call in and interact with our guest. Let me take this moment to quickly push in an announcement. And this is a program announcement that starting today, this week, Thursdays, going forward, we will have a new program at 18 hours, and it's called Simply Frank. Your host is Ambassador Frank Mtubila, or Uncle Frank, as you may like. And so make a date today at 18 hours and follow the conversation. The guest on that program for today is the Honorable Minister of Mines and Mineral Development, and Honorable Kabuswe. Make a date at 18 hours. Now, let's move to another pressure matter now, because this obviously is giving a bit of headaches in some sectors. It's the 4-hour economy, which I think requires energy security. All right. It requires safety and strong demand. Now, do we at the moment realistically have these fundamentals in place?
Okay, so the beginning point is we are not completely away from running the economy 24 hours. We've got some sectors, even the current form, still perform 24 hours services. You may be reminded to say that sectors like security services, they provide 24 hours services. You find a guard during the day is there, during the night is there. That's already 24 hours.
Yeah.
The other part is yourselves in the media. I don't think the media sleeps. If they sleep, I have never observed that. But whenever I'm even tired during the night at 03, I'll switch on the TV and I'll watch one or two things. I'll listen to the news on radio or something like that. Then the other part is the hospital. If I'm sick, even at midnight, I can just get on a vehicle, go to any hospital. Of course, hospital that are public or private, I'll find they're working. So this is just basically an extension which has given shape to say, look, it's very much possible for us to go into trade now. Trading 24 hours. We have actually been doing service with 24 hours in so many cases. So it's quite very possible, because obviously it does not need any heavy capital for one to actually go into it. Just like the way we are, if you're renting an office space, you don't utilize it in the night. So that is an opportunity that now be able to use what we call total factor productivity, meaning you can utilize in the night that same facility which you pay for a month. For example, your cover for your month does not trigger you to overuse in the night. So definitely, with that existing concept in mind of the infrastructure which is already there, it's easier for you to actually continue doing the business. But in terms of what concerns into this matter, obviously security integrity has to be emphasized, meaning we need now to ramp up security aspect, making sure that we basically work out a proper framework, because the night is quite vulnerable to so many things. It's weak in its own nature. But again, it's important to look at it to make a continuous production scale. Zambia has reached a point where it's averaging performance around 4.55% in terms of gross domestic product limits every year on average. So it's incumbent for us to see how best we can double the size of that number. And it calls for us to learn continuously, to be more dedicated, passionate around our own country resource, and much more to drive passionate commitment toward work. So if we tend to embrace it quickly, it will change this country. Already we are sitting at maybe say number 3 in terms of investors attraction in the African continental setup. It will be important to see that Zambia now accelerating much more. We can actually utilize this opportunity. For me, it's a golden opportunity that has been presented, though it has got a risk factor, but we need to see how best this can be utilized. Definitely with the government intervention and also gradual process of undertaking in most of the key sectors, I think it will be able to work out best for us. Some manufacturing companies also utilize the night when they're manufacturing things. In the morning, we go to get things and all that. So if we can now have commerce and trade in the night, I think it will be important. But it should be emphasized with the security, and also it will also come with some other risk premium aspect like insurance also, and the labor protection, and so many things. And now we can even create more part-time jobs as well. If you are a school student at Unza, you can now work maybe at up to midnight, from 19 to midnight. That also is coming to bring you with a disposable income in a way. So it's something that is perfect if we embrace it better, in a better position.
Others have argued that this policy increases operational costs for a business more instead of boosting productivity.
You see, we are looking at a issue of accelerating and upscaling the productivity level of this country. For us to move from the current scenario or present day scenario, we need to look at how best can we maximize the time factor. And this comes in handy just simply to just maybe scale 1 or 2 people for your workplace does not give you distorted function or distorted situation. It will be able to enhance you much more. So I think it's something that needs to be looked into positive or from the positive perspective. It will be able to help change a narrative, especially when it comes to the expansion of SME, integration of different factors, including even profitability margins will be able to change. The more you call for this kind of intervention, the more you also desires that you need now to expand your business. The more you expand your business, the more you also take care of a larger operational cost that comes with you.
I was actually about to ask a question around what you've just said, and the question is, who stands to benefit first from the 24-hour economy? Is it the large corporations or SMEs?
It goes different way. Obviously, for SME, I should start with there. SME, they have got limited time. They have got limited factors. Maybe even looking at the capital formation, which is in this country, is quite poor. Maybe can I just pause a bit? Can I be allowed to speak in Bemba, because we are talking of people in Mansa. We're talking of people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So the key factor here is when you basically push time, more time for work, it means mlepanga ishila for more people to actually participate in the economy. And what you basically see there is that if I know that my time is limited, especially when I've got other engagement, like for example, I'm a farmer. If I'm a farmer, at some point, I may need to also complete the cycle of a certain production line. For example, I'm taking goat from Kalomo to Kasumbalesa.
Right.
Because of this constraint that we have where I need to stop somewhere because I cannot travel in the night. Definitely what will happen in the case now is that I can start from Kalomo at 16 hours. I'll reach Kasumbalesa at 03, meaning I've got more time to work. And if it's an SME on the road there, will be able to sell something to me. And not only that, also, if you have an SME running a transport business, I'll be benefiting more because I have more time to have flexibility with time. And that is what's going to happen for a larger corporation. Or definitely things like bank, insurance, manufacturing. They have a full scale time to interplay into their business activities, meaning they can also make money in the value chain as well. So it's symbiotically standing on to benefit tangible aspect on the SME as well as the corporate out there. And in the end, it's a win-win situation for everyone, including now when you go to macro level, the government is going to benefit because the tax that will come also from there. We want to be a story of saying we didn't have business. When the economy is running, it's not sleeping, definitely it has to make money.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, this is the Thursday edition of The Burning Issue here on the Happy World of 5FM Radio. Remember, we are also live on our partner radio stations. We are live on Tuta FM, that is in Mansa, and of course covering Luapula province, BMTV Zambia here in Lusaka on channel 114 on Topstar, Katete FM on 103.3 FM, Spice FM on 91.1 in Central Province, live also in Central Province is on ZFM 100.3 FM in Kapiri, and Platinum Radio in Ndola, Copperbelt 99.7, and iWave FM 90.1 in Chingola, Copperbelt, Tuta FM, like I said, Mansa, and Luapula Province on 90.7, Isunga Radio on 88.3 in Senga Hill, Northern Province, and Muchinga Radio in Chinsali, Muchinga Province on 88.1. Don't forget to look out for our conversation live on our Facebook page, and that's 5FM Radio Zambia. A quick announcement here on the Happy World of 5FM Radio. This is a new program announcement that this evening, starting today, every Thursdays at 18 hours, remember to tune in to Simply Frank. This is a program that will be hosted or is hosted by Ambassador Frank Mutubila. And today's guest is the Minister of Mines and Mineral Development, Honorable Paul Kaposwe. Make a date at 18 hours. Now, let's get into serious reality checks. I mean, inflation figures may show improvements now, but food and transport costs remain high. How do you explain that?
Okay, so in the Zambian case, the composition of inflation, a large component of it's actually food inflation.
Right.
Yeah, which basically occupy almost close to about 55%. The rest of the aspect can be just a small fraction where it actually has a non-food component of about 45, 47, somewhere there. So what has been actually happening here is that we are at a point where we are meeting up with seasonal demands, and we are nearly productive output time in terms of kulima. They are now harvesting some of the things from the fields. Others can even now get things from the fields and basically also make up meals and all those things. So the food inflation at a point when it was high in December, or even just down like the line up to September, it has actually been reducing because we are now receiving some fresh stuff, and even some of the early maturity products are also on the table. So that's the reason why we've seen that serious moderation. Then not only that, also the forex market, the kwacha-dollar relationship has also made a substantial effect because, as I mentioned, January we had about 15% appreciation level. That effect transmitted into the aspect of inflation as well, because what happens in the case that when we basically have high spikes in inflation, we basically also try to trigger an imported component of inflation, or in short, we import inflation. So the appreciation of kwacha made a limitation on imported inflation, and that's the reason why we seem to have given that good shape around inflation patterns and development. Then when we came into February, we had the 4.5% appreciation level of kwacha and the dollar, and that has also given a very proper outlay as well. Similarly, except that with the aspect of the fuel, which also started having that geopolitical risk aspect, we made a loss in March, about 3% or so. So that has now given a reverse of whatever we have actually been able to see. So in terms of just the inflation itself, the food inflation, because you are able to get maize now, you are able to get soybeans, you are able to get any of those food stuff from agricultural output. That's the reason why we seem to have inflation now going toward this. So in short, the agriculture output that we have in the current times from February up to now, even going up to somewhere like August, will be feeding inflation. And that's the reason why we seem to have this pattern working out. But if we happen to have a situation where we basically see, fuel going much higher than the margin that we have actually anticipated to see, then it to mean the inflation that is coming from fuel in importation form and many others can now start fighting against the food inflation. So what we have moderating and making things better for us, it's food inflation. But there is a possibility that an inflation coming from fuel is standing, potentially waiting to trigger if we do not take care. And that's the reason why the government was proactive to get now 40% in policy intervention through VAT and excise duty. So in short, on the technical form, we cannot say they are subsidizing, but economically, we can say they are subsidizing because the implicit deficit that will land on the budget from the intervention that is coming there, it's actually speaking subsidies in technical terms from economic perspective. Yes.
Now, in understanding inflation, I think you as an economist, Mr. Chisanga, that it's been hard really to explain inflation. And this brings the question, is inflation being measured in a way that reflects real life, or there are alternative policies that you feel would bring actual relief to households, not just the statistical improvements that we are always accustomed to?
Okay, so with regard to inflation, maybe the basic understanding that inflation is the speed at which most of the commercial social goods move at. It's just simply a speed where basically you have an item today selling at maybe 10 kwacha. Tomorrow it goes at 12 kwacha. The next day it goes at 15 kwacha. That movement is what we call inflation. So that in itself is what we can say as the poor man's tax. You are taxing on a poor man by so doing through that process. So now we need some levels of stability. Before I answer the composition of inflation or the rate of inflation, I would love to put things in context. So what basically plays out here is that we basically have to have what we call predictable environment. With the fighting inflation, it calls for different stakeholders to play a part. One of the part which the key stakeholder is playing is by making sure they work on the monetary policy too. In this case, Bank of Zambia has been trying to work on price stability. So whenever we have an issue which is triggering risk potential, Bank of Zambia will be proactive, working out a model so that we can make a policy that can have a stronger transmission channel to cool down any effect that may tend to happen. So in the case of inflation, yes, the reality of it is that we do not compute everything together, but we've got a baseline. How inflation comes to help, maybe in the case is that when the Bank of Zambia term or curve that inflation, it helps also to gauge on the macroeconomic factors. The government authorities will be able now to go into a system of assessment, see how they are also working out. It's a measuring tape for them as well. This, by extension, also it plugs into sovereign risk factors. If an investor is coming from the global market, they want to see what are the parameters ticking into Zambia. So inflation is one of them, and many others, including even cost of capital, which is interest, and many other, complemented factors that can also put on the table. But the overall situation here is that yes, we may tend to look at inflation composition aspect of maize, which is actually staple food, and many others, because Zambians, we are driven to a position of Nshima every time, and that's the biggest thing that we have. And not only that, also even some other food items, including transport services that we also basically see, lentils and all the sort of things. Those are composition basic aspect. Because what drives the prices of goods is what we basically get to compute into the inflation patterns. And for inflation leading to actually work out best, we need to look at these key factors. How is our food security? How is our forex market performing? How is the cost of transport, bus fare, and all those things? How is the cost of lentils in most of the population out there? So all those are issues that come to the table to compute and make up inflation leading from there.
Mr. Kelvin Chisanga, an economist, is our guest today on the burning issue. And quickly, let me throw in a program announcement that starting today, Thursday at 18 hours, is a new program called Simply Frank. And Simply Frank is hosted by Ambassador Frank Mutubila. And every Thursday at 18 hours, this program will air here on the Happy World of 5 FM radio on 899. And make a date, as today's episode will be featuring the Minister of Mines and Mineral Development, Honorable Paul Kabuswe. Make a date at 18 hours. Now, Mr. Chisanga, is Zambia's GDP growth translating into job creation, or are we seeing growth that has no inclusion? And which sectors, if you can, are carrying the economy, and are they sustainable? Or maybe we are just being over reliant on certain industries while neglecting diversification.
Well, thank you so much for that question. And I would answer it in this way. Okay, so where Zambia is sitting at a balance of stability, especially coming from a very weak growth pattern, which was complemented by external eventualities and dramatic aspects of the global market. What I mean by saying this is that Zambia is sitting at a point where we are the COVID, and I'm sure many of you could have actually been able to testify from there. Then we had also inconsistency in some policy measures, especially when it comes to the mining sector, where we are shadow boxing in a way, policies from that to that, and all that. It never gave that substantial effect. And if you just look at the comparative case of mining parameters for Zambia versus African continent, we were taking on top. But because of that inconsistency, which took about 10 years, in 15 years, that made now Zambia to start being back with the Congo front loading everything from there. So that in essence created a very serious situation for Zambia, and that spoke also into so many key parameters, forex market, exchange, and so many things that actually really worked out from there. So now, just to give you that context, and again, we also came out from the drought situation, which also hit our GDP profile quite low. Instead of, we were basically performing at slightly below the population growth. Zambia's population growth has been averaging about 3.2% per annum. So with this aggressiveness that we see in, infant development and few others, including even just the population effect, we are basically talking of low production on the economic side because they are not meeting up the demanding factors that the economy can also be looking forward to work out. It's okay. A typical example I can give, maybe just to make everyone understand here, is that in the house, you cannot expect to have a lot of people when your income is too small. You're failing to meet up. The end result is that you'll be now carrying deficit. You'll be carrying debts, and you have so many things that will happen from there. So it becomes very difficult for you to actually balance up the key actors of life. And in the end now, you start now having health challenges. When when your income is low, you have health challenges, complicated aspect that will be able to accompany with you. Even when your health is supposed to go up to 70 years, but because of overburden, it becomes relatively difficult. So in the context of Zambia, that is where we're coming from, where the economy was not ticking into positive trajectories. And hence now, we started now recording very low. So where we are sitting at a point where we have actually been able to make good progress in terms of stabilizing key variables, even despite having the low effect on the ground level in terms of trying to touch the cost of living and all that. But it can only be substantially work out if we carry with key fundamental factors, especially when you look at the sectoral performance that have actually been able to be seen from there. What is carrying the GDP, maybe to also go into your question, it's basically the mining sector. It's doing the heavy lifting of the GDP performance, owing to the fact that it's also going with technological aspect, and that's the reason why you seem to have the aspect of less impact on the employment opportunities. But when you look at it from the context, also from the broader sense, we are talking of it to have a larger influence on even the forex market, taxation issues and all that. So it's quite capital intensity in a sense, but it's not able to absorb a number of people. Then when you look at the other sectors that are also giving substantial effect, it's agriculture. Agriculture, even nangwaku kumansa kusenama kwakapesha mwaya kuchingola kabundi, or you go anywhere else, agriculture is rampant because and also they are doing a bit of farming here and there, which are basically also giving them substantial income. Meaning what we are seeing is that we've got a huge number of people employed in agriculture, but the bad effect is that it pays very low. If you look at the comparison case between the mining sector and agriculture in terms of workforce, agriculture has got more people, but yet it lacks attractive packages, and also it lacks value addition. So if we can quickly go into value addition, maybe it can even start paying a bit more and some. Then when you look at the agriculture, tourism as well, we haven't done so much with tourism as per se. Even the numbers are not speaking so much. When you look also across other sectors, transport, yes, we are doing very well, but because of the issues to do with night ban, where, heavy goods vehicles cannot travel during the night, passenger vehicles cannot move, and so many things. So we've got a fraction numbers also in transport as well, transport and logistics. So what is basically sustaining this economy? It's the mining sector. The emerging sectors that we are able to see now, where people are now developing hubs in ITC and linking now to banking and that. So substantially, we are basically getting the mining to be a more of a core growth driver in our GDP profile. But again, we've got supplementary services that are coming from banking and finance and also IT. So these are not supposed to even just give you enough employment from that perspective. The only way we can actually drive employment in the country, even when it comes to substantial effect on the GDP, is when we get into value addition across all these sectors that we are mentioning from there. So right now, just to answer correctly, I think we have done the best in terms of stabilizing the key fundamental factors, and the GDP profile is speaking positively, but it's not where we're supposed to be. It's just telling us to say, look, you have reached this level, you need now to start escalating to this position so that we can actually be able to have less due effect in terms of disposable income, having employment, integration into value addition and many others. And there we're also standing with a very positive export market, which is actually quite attractive as well. But also it needs for us to balance between the domestic needs as well as the export market.
Would you say, is government being proactive in managing the economy, or it's largely being reactive? And maybe
it's a both case, because I'll tell you the truth. The truth is we politicize a lot of things, including even politicizing the economy. The key issue that we should stop politicizing the economy. Once we move from there, I think it will be able to help us largely. The key factor here is that as long as we are within the political tenure of 5 years, maybe just to help people understand here is that when somebody comes into government for 5 years, the first year for people like I would be very categorical. For people like UPND, first part of the year, they were learning on the jobs, getting acclimatized how the system works. They only came to kick off in the second year, then decided now, doing one or two things which are also correct in a way. Then some also, they are not making things accordingly, So there is always that error and trial and all sort of things. Then in the third year, technically things start stopping from there. The fourth year, they start thinking to say, we need now to start making strategies, or now we're going to win the election and all that. So technically, each and every political party, if they have got a 5-year tenure, their work is only year 2 and year 3. Year 4, maybe they will try to consolidate here and there. Year 5, obviously, year 5, we see things are happening differently. Yeah, so that is what actually has been making the country to go this way, from that front. But again, it's also important to look at the best way we can actually coordinate a continuous process of management in the public office. If you happen to come from maybe a previous governance, there must be a continuation of certain policies which we need to see so that we can foster productivity and see how we sustain that growth. Zambia, if you had a pattern of following what we saw in the times of Halabi, where we were averaging about 7% in terms of GDP profile, if we continued with that, and also if we continued with an aspect of streamlining some of the public contraction of debts, I think we should have also seen that we could have created also a pathline for sustainability of some of these debts. So you see, maybe a typical example I can give is a previous government may tend to contract debts, and without any framework of how it's supposed to be sustainably working out on repayment, then the other government will come now to start clearing up that and put up policy in place. So already there are a lot of policy missing gaps that we should be able to see from there. So it's important to look at how best can we create an environment where we have a comprehensive design of policy which should be able to work out to treat some of the key issues. In a case, I can give a challenging, situation where right now, as we speak, only remaining with about less than a month or two to actually dissolve Parliament. What happens if there is an emergency funding that is required on the budget, especially that we are supporting fuel through subsidies in a form of police intervention, and we are going to lose that money, about 1.2 billion Zambian kwacha. What happens when it's desirable for us to expand certain expenditure columns? Obviously, yes, there is a provision under the constitution where maybe a president can make a decision, can make a provision of some sort, constitute maybe a bit of cabinet with a PSC from Minister of Finance, but that's not enough, because that also will still pend for ratification to with the next parliament.
Yeah.
So already we see a number of things. So there's a need for us to just do a proper coverage of our policy leakages that we have in terms of where are we missing it. Why can't we make something solid that can work according to the changing patterns of the government function? So it's important to look from there.
And what difficult but necessary decisions is Zambia avoiding right now? I mean, if you were in the driving seat or indeed in charge of the economy, what would you do that is difficult yet necessary?
I think my first thing is to drive high policy appetite for local production and substitute every import that basically come here, because you see, it doesn't make sense to import something that is already manufactured in Zambia. Already create pressure for local market player. So the best is to disfranchise some of the unnecessary, even if they seem to have essential needs for this country, those stuff that come here, even in this country, which are standing on the same shelves with Zambian product, I think we need to cut that so that we can have Zambian product, being prominent. And much more, we need to balance up when it comes to even land. I think, even in economic sense, land is a very important unit of production. So we need to look at how we allocate our land. We should not just give anyhow, especially when it comes now. You find that a Zambian to find a land within Kablonga, it will cost you. So we need to find a way of how we best work out with such resources. There are important economic aspects that we need to safeguard, in this country.
This is the Thursday edition of The Burning Issue, and our guest today is Mr. Kelvin Chisanga. He is an economist. And, of course, we've discussed quite a lot, and it's that time when we open the phone lines for you to participate in our conversation. And the number to call us on is 0955 221515. And a quick announcement to make, starting today, Thursday, the 2nd of April 2026 at 18 hours is a new program called Simply Frank. Your host is Ambassador Frank Mutubila, or Uncle Frank if you like. And so starting today at 18 hours, that is the program. And the guest for today is the Honorable Minister of Mines Mineral Development, Honorable Paul Kabuswe. So make a date at 18 hours. The number you're calling us on is 0955 221515 for your participation on today's burning issue. We've got a call. Good morning.
Good morning, Razaki.
How are you today?
I'm good, and how are you?
Fine. Your name, please, and where are you calling us from?
General Chongo calling from Kawe.
General Chongo from Kawe.
Yeah.
Please go ahead, sir.
Wakalamba Navalanda, we know, so he has speculated a lot of issues, which is very fantastic, but what we need, if you're and us, if we left the background, because we can speak good words, but going on the ground, something else. So, we are hearing what he has spoken, so we need to practice what we are saying, because Wakalamba Natulanda Navalanda Pona ne Fifia Chitike Uku Solowezi. He has tackled a lot of issues, because each report we need to sensitize your mob justice. The government has got a lot of issue to sensitize. When something has happened, we need to sensitize the Zambian people so that next time that things cannot happen. Efe tufiro kuchitaba kalamba ngefya chitike kuma students yomwana twalufishe, because we need to focus on those issues of sanitations before we lose a life of a student. So bakalamba ukuchiralilia a life has been lost, and we are now giving a lot of money. So we need to tackle on all those things. In conclusion, let's see what we are speaking and do it on the ground. General Chongo in Kabwe, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, General Chongo. And of course, remember our conversation this morning is purely on economics. And our guest, Mr. Kelvin Chisanga, has articulated quite a number of issues around how Zambia is positioned now economically, and obviously made projections on how we can best move forward with regards to economics. But you too can take part by calling in on 0955-221515. Don't forget, we are also live on our partner media houses, and the following are carrying this program live on their platforms. BMTV Zambia, and that is on channel 114 on Topstar, and Katete FM on 103.3 FM, Spice FM in Kabwe on 91.1, ZFM in Kapiri 100.3 FM, Platinum Radio on 99.7 in Ndola, iWave FM on 90.1 in Chingola, Copperbelt, and Tuta FM on 90.7 in Mansa, and Isunga Radio on 88.3 in Senga Hill, and not forgetting Muchinga Radio on 88.1. Also on our Facebook page, we'll be looking out for your conversations or indeed your questions. Let me take this call. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Zach.
How are you today?
I'm doing fine, my brother. And how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Your name, son, where are you calling us from?
Bruce within Lusaka, Mr. Zach.
Yes, Bruce.
Yeah, just a good morning there.
Good morning. Thank you so much.
Yeah, first of all, I wanted to appreciate you. You have explained good thing there as an economist. And I wanted to appreciate you, Mr. Zagi, that we are grateful, Mr. Zagi, for bringing us the person who can explain it very well.
Right.
Now, the question is about this issue relating to economy, because if you read the economy...
Your question is on what?
On the... Okay.
Yes, please. Go ahead. Hello? Hello, can you hear me? We lost him. But please call us back, and we would like to hear your question or indeed your contribution on 0955-221515. This is the Thursday edition of The Burning Issue, and our guest is Mr. Kelvin Chisanga, an economist who is here to obviously answer and attend to your questions in as far as the economy is concerned, and of course hear your contribution as well. Okay, the number once again is 0955-221515. We've got a call. Let's pick this one. Good morning.
Mwasebenza bwanji boss wanga.
Kasebenza bwino kayayi mwe.
Kasebenza bwanji bali bwanji wa guest.
Aho turife mutende bese bakalamba twatotera mukwaye.
Nifuna
ati bandani zina
ukamba na bakosta boss ku Lusaka West.
Bakosta ku Lusaka West.
Bakosta bariko na mafunzo kapena munga batandizireko kuziba pa mafunzo after bakasiriza kufunza.
Okay.
Mu budget amene banachita announce last year hapa, amene iyamba kusebenza this year. Kuja kwangabwe kuja nimasebenzerako nimaenda olima bosi. Manje timankala na challenge paja banatuza ati wazatufakirako bridge. Yamene ezambo chitengerako vintu vatu kwenda mukugulisa olo ku transportation ya munjira zosiyana siyana. siniziva kuti ija budget wa government yasikapati ija program ija chifukwa so apa vantu vayamba kukolola vantu ninafa pa 1 month ago ivo vonse vibweza economy pansi chifukwa chakuti vantu vari kuja vamene vafuna kuchita vintu vamene vivapangira ndrama this time apa sivaenda so mutizatitandizirako bwanji bosi kutifunsirako va government or kapena va minister va mirupi nyona ndiye vamaona kuma program ya bridges aya timvere kuti vatiyanke kuti ija program yendera pati
atini kuti uko
kwangabwe pamukuwe paja pali pontuni amene imatausa mamoto kupereka kwangabwe amene zina yangabwe manje kwangabwe vanapanga ni district
yes
but kuja mu area yangabwe amene mulibe ma activities amene yachitika pose mulibe police post mulibe depot ya FRA mulibe vili vonse mu clinic quite right iliko matawa zinayo ni kuchitoyenda parupiri kutuka mbena vantu ngati waenda kuti so vatitandizira bwanji va government pale ayo ma issues more especially bridge na depot ya FRA kuja kusai pali chimozi vatitandize ngati bridge icosting ndrama zambiri kuti vaipange vachiperekereko depot ya FRA kuja so that sankale na challenge maningi kupereka makatundu yatu kwendo gulisa muma areas mwinamo ivo pali ziviri ivo tipempa va government vatitandizireko mutipushingireko mutifunsireko na bridge pay afika chifukwa tenze kuvina ese kumbera ati kuli bridge
zikomo zamveka izo okay yeah all right and there you have it again these are realities on the ground versus an improving economy. And people will tell you, well, and they'll ask questions, well, you're saying the economy has improved, but the reality on the ground is different. And so putting people in a very difficult situation to understand whether truly the improved economy is realistic or not. But yeah, when you listen to such, but let me maybe quickly give you another call.
Oh, sure.
Good morning, and please share your name and where you're calling us from.
I'm Elvis Sasa calling from.
Please do call us back. We lost you. The number once again is 0955 221515 for your participation here on the Thursday edition of The Burning Issue. Let's see if we can pick this one. Good morning. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Morning to you. Thank you for calling. Your name and where you're calling us from?
Yes, Bruce, sorry, I was disturbed a little bit.
Bruce, yes. We lost you at some point. Good to have you back.
Yes. I have already said good morning to the guest.
Sure.
My question is about the economy of this country. We are doing very well as a country. Right?
Yes.
Now, my question is, before 2021, we have this issue of subsidy in fuel.
Yeah.
And all of us, we know that that subsidy was left us in a huge debt. Now, we have this crisis. You as an economist, if you have given a time to advise the president and the government, because you have that, I'm sure you contact with some people who are near the president. Can you advise again the president today, again, to put subsidy in fuel? If our economy, is it that our economy can afford and be able to subsidize the fuel so that we cannot be increased? Maybe my question will be heard.
Yes, indeed. I think we have grasped what you're trying to say. Yes, we have heard. Thank you very much for that question.
Thank you.
Great. Maybe you can react.
Okay, so I'll start with him. Right. He started with the issue of fuel debts, and actually that translates a very good scenario, because if you look at the 2025 budget expenses, we went by over 25% on public procurement, and fuel was heavily supported because it was on subsidies, almost 100%, I should put it, because government was procuring fuel, or entirely of it. So that's the reason why we saw a figure ballooned from 190 billion Zambian kwacha to 112 billion Zambian kwacha. That left a very serious dent on our aspect of debt. We were owing about almost like $1 billion in fewer debts, and obviously it also made us to start now scaling down efforts from procurement of fuel through the central government, and now it has actually been equalized where the private sector are interplaying to fuel. Subsidies, I would say, yes, we have some silent subsidies that we are talking today. We've got about 40% in subsidies, but that is translated into policy. As we can see, we're talking of, fuel, VAT and excise waivers. That already speaks of subsidies. Imagine if they didn't put all this. Would have been speaking of per liter about 38 or 40 kwacha per liter, but subsidies are there. That's the reason why we seem to have something closer to about 28, 30 somewhere there. I'm not defending the government, but, our professional, we have to look into this aspect. And that's the reason why we looked at the numbers of VAT in terms of how value should have actually interplayed into this overall price structure. And that's the reason why we seem to have some sort of like saving kits around fuel. Then I'll also go into the one who called for Ngabwe concern. Ngabwe, I think I would say it's one of the town that we have never utilized to the fullest capacity. Ngabwe has got mineral rich. It's a town that we just need to see how we can work out, even when it comes to this geo mapping of high resolution of minerals. Ngabwe should be able to have a lot of minerals, and it can now even give us an opportunity for us to expand that. So fighting or crying over a bridge, I think some of these things, it goes with the area member of parliament there. How is he responding to it? And again, if it's a budget which is below 2 million, I'm sure it can be done, under even CDF or something like that. So there's a need to contact the local representative from that point, especially those that are representing on parliamentary desk, to ensure that CDF also works over this, because CDF has gone to over something like 40 million Zambian kwacha. So I'm sure a bridge that is required about 2.5 or even just below 2 million, it can actually work out from there. And I'm sure those are things that can actually be able to push scales of activities from there. Then the 23 million has been given to UNZA. I'm not speaking in reference to the man who talked about the death that we have recorded, but I'm just also referring to say that there is also some swiftness that is also taking place. But again, from the economic point of view, when you take money that wasn't planned to divert, definitely we're going to indiscipline. So we also just need to see how certain things should be able to work out. But when there's a need for emergence like this one, where death is seeing, definitely must be a lot of attention that need to be drawn into the case. So the challenge that has been there is that the current governance system, they are pushing so much scales on the primary and secondary education. Then they left the aspect of, or the welfare around tertiary. Yeah. So that's the reason why we seem to have this. But I think for me, my core is that there must be a well-balanced aspect in terms of trying to look at education from the concept itself to the last part of its profile, so that education can be sound. Because if we concentrate on the primary and the secondary school, it cannot just give a good effect even when it comes to tertiary.
Absolutely. And of course, we'll take some more calls here on the Thursday edition of the Burning Issue on 0955221515. That's the number that you're calling us on for your participation. Let's take some more calls. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm quite okay. I'm Elder Chasaya calling from Shantumbu.
Elder Chasaya?
Yes.
From Shantumbu. Thank you very much.
I'm going to take one of that issue of the Kalumbila. Yes.
Okay.
In Kalumbila, John, I'm very worried about that. abantu tabaishiwa amacases efeyesa ikitipu mwamone nayi bali abaipe yesu tabaitere bwini mwamone nayi bakuya amake okuyitulikane kwa sala mwamoneni dabalabe na nani kana pirate naye nati afire nsei mwamoneni naye noti tileta kwa watu wasanga kyo muntu pale mkunda tiule wa joina wambo okulatuba ma utawicho no kwafumine bindu murume mwamoneni so asanga as a Christian nation ama preachers afile baishiwa okwebati ushe abantu baishiwa okwesitifisa that's why nensito baletirwa okukwata wasanga fanti waipa omuntu era wayekateba ti ayina ibikwata amapuresha ndekwayo ensito walaya kunsito kule ikiwa kyawulya wine kyala mune kuli manager ulya usanga tiwe uli wakyale kya wafire okwinjira ekito mwamwane amakesesi ese sokini mwamwane note kyakweba ti wasanga ti omuntu waipa ikote sifumayo
Atashaba
Zambia Federation Nation fule twaikatana wino
emkwai
twaikatana wino noti ukwipayana awe techifumawe
Atashaba emkwai
makesesayo
emkwai
amane
emkwai
newe utakasaya kuno kunanika
kushantum
nikiwe sikipufe visa
totera emkwai. Well, timely preaching. It's a holy Thursday, so
yeah, sure.
we might as well get some word of God from Elder Josiah. Thank you very much, Elder Josiah, for calling. Let's quickly fuse in this one. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Aule sale para mkwai
Bakombe mule tumina kwi
tumina munasaka muno mwine kwena
emkwai
afashi sinefo kurana kusana mbono cha economy number 1 kimwe kibisana rawai bantu number 1 iki kisunga economy ifiwe ngamanye mwana kwati apapere within short time inko ndachike ku ineka chishimana ntani kuma iranyo
kuma idwiste
within 3 weeks so chile ngwati muzambia tukaba reserve proper reserve ya iki chiwa yewe ingisane kwa to komo tena ngwani tafakwati mama because na tusoka fiwe we ya wani itomo kwa fiwe yesu yachi mama but within short time within 3 weeks achiwa barunga chile ndingati tatukweti sure pero na shipi yo ndakashinga ni kachinga ni 3 weeks yachika kuno katwa isho kuno kwino mama nezo no kuza flow within short time so ikintu wike manu kuli chiwe kusunga chiwe sa ndimbe kwa fomu na ngwani yesu
Tatasha Bakombe.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Let me see if I can take some more on 0955221515. That's the number you're calling us on the Thursday edition of the Burning Issue. And our guest today is Mr. Kelvin Chisanga. He is an economist, and we have discussed quite a number of issues in as far as the economy is concerned. You can also send us a message on our Facebook page if you would like to drop us a text. Now, let me quickly bring in a question that obviously I reserved for last, and this one is about in the next 6 to 12 months, should Zambians expect relief or tougher economic conditions? What is the one thing government must get right now?
Okay, so considering the dramatic situation in the Middle East, it's quite difficult to predict on how this will be able to work out, especially when it comes to fuel. Maybe just in combining this with an aspect of Kombe's question regarding the reserves. it will be important. Zambia has worked a proper framework in terms of open access and other policy liberation, or even just reform, I should put it to say. We have made substantial impact on how the players in the market should be able to actually help, make sure that we have a security supply of fuel, both diesel and petrol, and even other petrochemical products. But what has really left out here is that we haven't been able to incentivize on storage facilities. Yes, the key issue is that those times when we were looking at who should be able to interplay into the industry, we're also looking at the aspect of storage to come with the moving assets, tankers and all that. But that was stripped away. But again, it's important to look at how best can we quickly act on the storage part of energy. That will be able to change the narrative. We need to have a model, even as Zambia, as a nation, as a government, to actually look at how best can we create an atmosphere for a strong synergy between public and private partnership into storage. That will be a quicker model for us to actually see how Zambia can sustain from there. Then, when you look at the situation around where we're going, definitely we are in a very bad situation, given the current circumstances in terms of factors. And much more, if we've got multiple stress factors acting simultaneously, like oil shock, weak kwacha, and weak export on copper. These will actually put a lot of things in disarray. So it's important maybe to have a futuristic plan around this to see how we can sustain the momentum. Otherwise, if we tend to relax a bit in regards to this, and at a point when we have not even have active parliament going into election, that actually brings a very distorted structure to the market. Even whatever we have built as gains might start seeing reversal. So it's important that we can actually be able to see that election also in the case can stand as a risk factor into our growth pattern. That's the reason why it will be important even when you look at the patterns of campaign messages. If the campaign messages will be more of attacking the economy, bad sentiment, definitely the next few months to come might be a challenging one. Even when you look at the growth pattern that we have recorded so far in the first quarter of about 5.2% in this first quarter, it won't be able to be seen in a similar way with second quarter and partly third quarter, which actually touches the election active period. So we seem to have a very interesting scenario. It all depends with how we are going to pass through it. And many of what we are seeing, even when it comes to fuel hiking in this month, we are likely to see also the next month having the similar pattern. And worse off, the next month, that's when we will start now releasing off some of the, parliamentarians from parliaments. That becomes even more challenging. So there must be models that can actually sustain up to elections. So meaning the planning now of these active cabinet office bearers should also go up to somewhere like election time, so that we can have actually be able to have safety nets or safety jackets around any eventuality that should be able to happen from there. So it's important to look in those areas.
And finally, how do you then respond to, or how do you predict the situation beyond elections, okay, in terms of energy? We were coming from electricity deficit, and here we are, we've got, adequate power supply. There are questions around this. There are people who are saying we've been here before, and probably this is an election year move. After elections, we will go back to load shedding. These are anticipations, okay, by most people. But again, you want to begin to think that shouldn't be possible, because why would the government implement the 24-hour economy now if after elections, they have a plan of, bringing back load shedding. So in the deliberate way. But do you think that because of this implementation of the 24-hour economy, definitely it speaks out of the possibilities of bringing back load shedding?
I think the 24-hour operating system will be a strong anchorage to sustain electricity reliability, because obviously what we see is that you cannot push a policy that you know that it needs a strong supporter or fundamental pillar of power, like in this case.
Yeah.
It's something that you actually cannot be able to remove or get to be removed from the equation.
Right.
What we see, maybe some of the, I don't know, maybe if I'm seeing what everyone should be able to see. Yes, in the election year, there are a lot of things that do happen. Some can happen for a bad cause because one want to sustain power, want to win the votes. But in the broader sense of human life, I think it's important to point to say that when we've got stable electricity, it enables us to produce at peak. It's a good thing for us. I don't know if you're getting it.
Yeah.
It's a good thing for us. We need to maximize it to a fullest potential. Then when it comes to a political lens, I think that is where the issue comes in. If the opposition is saying to say, why you bring electricity, want to win, it should also be flipped on the side to say, look, this is a good thing that the country should be able to push scales of activities so that we can be able to have a substantial base of impact when it comes to the GDP profile and many others. The key positive cascading effect in the same will be, one, employment. Then also we'll be able to meet a number of obligations. On the economic side also, we can now have a good number that will be able to flash in the global market to say Zambia is doing very well. By so doing, we'll have more influx of investors coming into the country, and they will interplay into the business that is there, and eventually your relative will get employed from there. Or some of us can even get employed from such interventions. So we should look at a bigger picture. Yes, it's an election year, but when there is an intervention of this nature, I think it's a good thing in a sense. But again, even when you're looking at it from that perspective, it should be understood to say, election come, and they have also implication. You may find that with what is happening, it can also bring another aspect of issues that we can actually be able to put across there. But on the context of the fiscal planners as well as the economic perspective, we are talking of bridging the budget, meaning there is deficit that is likely to be seen because somebody is trying to push resources that are supposed to go into other sources of concern on the maybe social protection or agriculture in terms of fiscal support and many others, but the resources are going towards suppressing the need for energy. This actually, maybe I should be able to say that I think it's high time we look at the energy sector in all its entirety to make sure that we have some sense of stability and also refine some of the key parameters. What we see basically sitting on the table is that the liberalization of energy policies have also enabled us to now go into open access situation where the model of business now is inviting even SMEs to interplay into the energy sector. That by itself, it's a plus, a scoreline that indeed to be given, appreciation from that basis. But again, I would say, I think whatever sense of thinking of political life, it also has an implication to the Zambian situation. Look at where we are. We are the high drive for subsidies in fuel, which left us with debts that we could not even service. Yeah, so that does not speak very well. So we just also need to look at which side of the coin are we supposed to look at things. I get baffled sometimes when I see a Zambian want the next party to I'm not endorsing any party. The next party or the next person to be only a president, that's when they can support Zambia's development. We should support whoever is there. We should support a government of any time. If it's happened that maybe, for example, Brian Mundubile comes in power, we should support that. If anyone who comes in power, we support. So for me, my appeal to Zambians is that let's support whoever is in power. Let's push developmental skills for ourselves. Because if you are in a foreign country, they will say Zambian. They don't say it is from Hakainde Hichilema, or they say from anyone that actually comes from this country and goes out there, they say Zambian. So if we have that umbrella tag, it's the same thing with what we should be able to embrace it in the local market. You are in this country, you think that this person has been given a mandate to read, let's support them to a full scale. When there is another person, let's support. So that is the best way we should actually be able to be patriotic about this country. The country needs patriotic people. It doesn't need personage where you should just be climatized with just one person. Anyone who comes to take public office, as long as they mean well, we support them.
Mr. Kelvin Chisanga, thank you very much today for making yourself available to obviously help us analyze the economy where we are, and amidst tension in the Middle East, obviously affecting us as well, because like in most cases, the president himself has said that confusion anywhere, it's confusion everywhere. So thank you once again for coming, and we can only wish you all the best.
My pleasure. Thank you.
There you have it. And that was our guest today on the Thursday edition of The Burning Issue here on 5FM Radio, and also on our partner radio stations. Our partner TV station is BMTV Zambia. And of course, our partner radio stations are Muchinga Radio, Tuta FM, Platinum Radio, iWave FM, Spice FM, Katete FM, and Isunga Radio, Muchinga Radio as well. And of course, we were also live on our Facebook page, and thank you for those that followed our conversation. Well, like we said, that's it. That's all we had for you for today. But a big announcement that I need to make. It's a program announcement that this evening, starting today, the 2nd of April 2026, is a program called Simply Frank. And that is a program that will air every Thursday at 18 hours. And your host is Ambassador Frank Mutubila, or Uncle Frank if you like, or indeed Simply Frank. So make a date, as his guest today is the Honorable Minister of Mines and Mineral Development in Honorable Paul Kabuswe. So until then, when we resume our Burning Issue program next week, Tuesday, for both Tuesday and Thursday edition, God willing, from all of us, is take care of yourselves and more so of each other. Bye-bye.
Tune in